dude, they could do different biomes. If they have a good base mode, it doesn't always have to be in the jungle. They can have desert, they can have snow, they can have woodland, they can have swamp. I'm very excited to see where they take it in the future. Very excited. I'm going to cover some grayzone warfare stuff just real quick. I just wanted to get my thoughts out. This will be the feedback that I give to the devs as well. But I played probably 60 or so hours of it. I had a lot of fun with it. For an early alpha game, really, really good. Compared to other fully developed games, like fully released games, 5 out of 10. When taken into consideration that it's an alpha, 8 out of 10. And so, you know, pretty solid rating. I don't think I've never given a game of 10. Like, there's no perfect game out there. The games that have came closest would have been there's no multiplayer game. The only one that's probably broken a 9 for multiplayer for me would have been Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1. Other games that would have been higher rating for me would have been The Last of Us, The Witcher 3. Like, both of those two, absolutely phenomenal. Modern Warfare 2 is up there as well. Defy, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, COD 4, Modern Warfare 1. Like, those three got pretty damn high ratings for me. I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2 or 1. But Halo 3 as well is up there. Yeah. Halo 3. Yep. Never played Battlefield back in the day. But regardless, no game's gotten it perfect 10, right? So an 8 out of 10 is a pretty fucking solid rating. There are issues with it, you know, being early access or early alpha. Obviously, still a lot of room for growth on it. And it's the best alpha game I've played. Best early alpha game I've played, hands down. Criticisms I have, I think, one, the lack of PvP at times made it feel like a running simulator or a helicopter flying simulator. Kind of expected with only having invited streamers and, you know, streamers inviting some friends. Once it's a full release game, I think in a higher population, I think that there's going to be more completely full servers. And when it was a completely full server, it was pretty fun. And it was nice because the fights were kind of extended. It wasn't so much a 1v1 or a 1v2, 1v3 and then over and done with. And then, you know, however many minutes later, you'd find another one. Like Tarkov's PvP, you can get pretty consistently a lot of times. But the fights on grayzone, like when they were extended and you were fighting like a faction, it was faction versus faction. There was times where they lasted like a damn near hour. It wasn't so much like you versus the other faction. It was your faction versus the other faction. And you'd have backup and then you'd be the backup and then you'd have backup and then you'd be the backup. And it was fun. It was a battle. That part was really fun. There was one specific time where I went in and it was just me and there was 2 different factions fighting. I was the solo on my faction, and dude, I killed like 10 players and it went from like 40 minutes to an hour. It was so much fucking fun. It was so much fun. Every single kill had me giggling. I was guerrilla warfare in it because I was outnumbered. I'd go in, pick up a kill, run away, and reposition. Go back in, pick up a kill, run away, reposition. It was so much fun, dude. And then finally, both factions just stopped coming. I didn't get a single kill outside of in the helicopter zone. I was fighting in the jungle. It was fun, but still, when I wasn't questing and I couldn't find PvP, it was a running simulator or a helicopter riding simulator. And so certain servers having higher population, I think would be good. Not all of them need a higher population. Not everyone's into PvP and they want it to, you know, they want to focus on other things other than PvP, but having some servers where they're PvP oriented, and it's 20 per server or 20 per faction, so 60 total, or even 25 per faction, so it'd be 75 total, I think would be fine. That'd be solid. But a lot of times it was a running simulator or a helicopter flying simulator. And that's not too much different than Tarkov's waiting times. A lot of times on Tarkov, you're playing a waiting menu simulator. You're in the menu, you're kitting up, re-queuing for 5 to 7 minutes to die within a minute and then doing it all again. And so like the helicopter rides, I'd prefer over a blank menu screen or loading screen where you're just seeing waiting for players, ... waiting for players, ... Like that's, you know, the helicopter ride was good. Now, with that being said, the helicopters need some work. For one, we'll cover the landing zones. The landing zones, way too commonly camped. You can't shoot out of the helicopter. And as soon as you're getting off the helicopter, there's a bunch of bushes and you immediately get got. And that was frustrating, especially if you're having to wait for the helis to come pick you up and then fly over and all that. And some things to fix that. And I think they will be working on it. Again, all this criticisms for early alpha, and they plan on working. It's realistic, sure, but we're playing a video game. We're not actually in Nam. You know what I mean? We're playing a video game here. Some other points that could help with that are realistic. A minigun, right? You have helicopter cover. Let it be a player controlled minigun, and let me light the fucking bushes up, dude. Give me 100 rounds in a minigun, and it circles over the landing zone for 5 seconds, and let me fucking light the bushes up. Then or smoke grenades. Let me place some smoke grenades down beneath the heli, and the smokes were solid. Let me get some smokes out. Some people recommended also different exfills and infills, because when you have the same infills and exfills, a lot of times what would happen is I wasn't even camping an infill. I was waiting for my exfil. I was waiting for the helicopter to come pick me up, and an enemy helicopter came in and dropped players off. So like, I'm sitting there, of course I'm going to light them up, because when my helicopter comes in and they hear it, they're going to kill me going to it. So like, I drop them, right? I'm not sitting there intentionally camping the infill, but when you have the same infills and exfills, it incentivizes it. So I think that they need to have different infills and exfills. Some people recommended a toxic zone, and the landing team has gas masks. That could potentially work. Some recommended a wildlife, like, you know, a fucking bear or tiger roam around the landing zones, and if you camp them too long, the tiger pushes to you and tries to kill you. But I think just having the helicopters help support would be big. Also, being able to drop your character off early, like if okay, you're flying into the infill and your teammates just got smoked there, let me stop early and rappel out and then go in, or let me have different ways to travel into the confrontation zones, i.e. other vehicles. And you know, the jungle was so dense that you're not really going off the road with it. It's a lot of road travel, but still, as long as there's more ways to travel than just helicopters, that'd be important. But yeah, so the helis in general could use some work. The landing zones specifically, the helicopter system. I think the audio is too loud on the helicopters. I know that's realistic, but when the majority of your player base mutes your game, there's a problem, right? We're playing a video game, and when I get on the helicopter and I can't hear my teammates on Discord, and so I mute my game, that's a problem. Tone it down a little bit. Let us be able to play music and hear our music over the helicopter. You can still have the helicopter noise and be it a little bit louder, but it still doesn't. You don't even need in-game earplugs. That's just too much. Just tone down the helicopter noise. There's zero reason that it needs to be that loud in my mind. In-game earplugs would work too, sure. I just don't think that it's a necessity. It doesn't add any fun to the game. No one's going to sit there and be like, yo, I'm really glad they have these helicopters super fucking loud, right? Even though that's how it is IRL, it doesn't add anything to the game, but only takes away from it, in my opinion. The helicopter system in general, you only can have 4 out, and it can be very easily abused. If me and 3 friends wanted to continuously call in helicopters during a fight to try to fuck with the enemy, it takes away from my teammates being able to use them, my faction being able to use them. And or if you just wanted people to troll, they're going to. People are going to sit there and call helicopters to their location continuously every chance they get, because they want to troll their faction into not allowing it. One accidental team kill is going to piss someone off, and they're going to sit there and troll the server. And I don't think that's right. So I think that a different helicopter system would be ideal, to where you have your helicopter and it can be called at any time, but then you also have the problem of you have 16 people in your faction. You can't have 16 helicopters going. That's too much on the server. And so one way to where, like, you know, if you call a helicopter but end up not taking it, that's a strike. And if you get so many strikes, then boom, that you can't call a helicopter for so long, right? I'm not talking about like you call a helicopter and die, but I mean, like, if you go in and you're intentionally trying to abuse it, there's a strike. Not bitching. These are all my criticisms, Fallen. I think the game was phenomenal. These are just my criticisms on what I would recommend changing, or my thoughts of where the game fell short. But I thought Grayzone was really, really good. But yeah, the heli system, there's really, in my mind, there's no point in having no loading screens if you're just going to be constantly waiting on helicopters. It kind of defeats the purpose in my mind. I like the helicopter ride over the loading screen, but if you're sitting there was times where I had to wait damn near 10-15 minutes for a helicopter, and I can play all day long. Not everyone can. If you only have 2 hours to play and 15 minutes of it is spent waiting on a helicopter, that's an issue. Faction system as a whole, I think they should scrap, or let me rephrase that, scrap the faction system being locked to accounts. I couldn't play with my best friend because he chose a different faction. I don't think that's cool. I think that it's also can be easily abused, because if I wanted to hop in a call with him, he could very easily feed me information on where his teammates were, and I could do the same, and then we both clean up. That's not right, right? And so I think the faction system could be tweaked a little bit, and it could be where you can maybe have the ability to swap your faction after a certain amount of time, every once a week or once every 2 weeks or even once every 24 hours or whatever, right? I think a better one is to not have it locked to your account at all, and it's simply put to the server that you're playing on. And that server, when you first load into it, you pick which faction you want to load into. Next time you play on that server, you can pick a new one. You know what I mean? Basically, it's not locked to your account, but they still have the factions in place. I like that there was 3 different factions, and you can have, you know, we'll get to the world events and stuff like that, but you can have those factions fighting over certain areas, and when you control those areas, you end up gaining more benefits for your traders, etc. But I think when you're locked into a faction and you can't play with your friends, it kind of sucks, man, because that's the whole point of playing video games, man, is to have fun and game with the homies, and they have a whole mechanic that makes that not possible. The biggest fan of how the factions are placed and locked into accounts, but I do like that the factions are there. World events, I think, would be a lot more fun. I think that that's obviously, all these criticisms are with it being early alpha in place, and it's not like, yo, this is how you fix it, but rather these are just suggestions and where I would maybe like to see additions to the game or alterations, because world events would just add in more incentive to utilize the full map outside of your bases and quest points. And if you have this is basically what Rust does, is they have a world event that you can get high tier loot from, then that's where you get the high tier loot. You know, let's say a ghillie suit, for example, you can only get one, and it's from that world event, and it's not always from that world event. It could be a bunch of different ones, you know, badass guns or really good ammo or, you know, whatever. You get them from the world event, and you fight, and your faction fights for that world event. I think in base defense or assault event would be cool too, where, you know, this faction is waging war on this faction, and there's no negative to it, but you get a reward for successfully defending the base, or you get a reward for successfully assaulting the base. Because some of the most fun I had was assaulting a base. Me and Ghosty went up and sniped from the top hill, and the other 8 people that were on our team, it was like Landmark and Willers and all, they assaulted the base. Shit was fun. And they successfully made it in the base and fucked them up, but the other team defended. They ended up defending it, and so like that would be cool. An actual like base defense and assault, and no negative. Like if you lose, you don't lose anything other than the kit or whatever, but you can be rewarded for the win. But world events, I think, would be healthy for the game, and it would be a lot of fun to have that happen. Faction identification is important. Right now, I think it's just a bunch of placeholders, right? But it was way too easy to team kill. Having to open a mini map to be able to tell if this person's on my team wasn't super ideal. It worked for now, but I think something simple as, you know, certain skins for each faction would be cool, and or compass up in the top portion of your screen. If you have a teammate in your vicinity, let's say 50 meters, you get the little blue marker that's there. And so if you end up spotting an opponent and you don't have a blue marker directly in the middle, boom, that's enemy. Light them up. That could work. Armbands or something could too, but I think, you know, unique character skins, because you like CSGO, you got the terrorists, you got the counter terrorists or whatever, unique skins. Even both of it would work. Either way, having an easier to identify faction markers would be helpful, because too many team kills, you get reported for it. I accidentally team killed a few times. I got team killed a few times, so I think that could be a bonus. Audio fixes, like I mentioned earlier, helicopter was way too loud. The tinnitus was the worst thing I've heard in a video game ever. I know it's probably pretty similar how it sounds IRL, but god damn, dude, whenever I got headshot and my helmet tanked it, that was terrible. It was just the most annoying ringing sound. I realize that's probably how it is IRL. I'm playing a video game. That's probably very triggering for someone that actually has tinnitus to tone that down a little bit. Cut it in half, cut it in a third, or to a third. And I think that would maybe be more ideal, because holy shit, that was crazy bad. Footstep audio of enemies, maybe a tad bit louder. I don't think it has to be extreme. I don't think it needs to be 50 meters out or 100 meters out. I think that just a little bit louder, but not by a whole lot. I think overall the audio wasn't bad. I think you could also do away with the fly flying into my ear. The rest of the audio, the ambient noise, I liked. But the fly buzzing in and out of your ear was annoying, more so than adding anything to it. It didn't add anything, but took away from the game for me. Every once in a while, maybe have a mosquito fly by your ear, but it was way too much. Someone mentioned some more AI roaming the jungles. I think that wouldn't be necessarily bad. I think they had it around camps and stuff like that, but having patrol groups go around the map and through the jungles would be kind of cool. After a while, you don't really roam around the jungle. You got your landing zones and you land in those, and then you rotate from there. You know, once they add in more world events and stuff like that, not bad. Some wildlife I think would be cool. Again, I'd also be okay without it, but wildlife would be cool. Vehicles would be cool. You could have Jeeps, you could have ATVs, and even maybe motorcycles and stuff like that, or dirt bikes, but dirt bikes might be a little bit too much. ATVs might be a little bit too much. I think mainly vehicles that need to stick to the roads would be cool. Transport vehicles. Doesn't even have to be player controlled, just like the helicopter. You can, I'd be fine with player controlled too. I wouldn't mind running around or flying around. I think that'd be fine. But basically just more ways to travel. Wildlife though, you could have monkeys, tigers. I don't know about snakes and shit. I don't want to go too deep with it, but having the occasional, like, you run into a fucking tiger and you got to kill them, that'd be pretty crazy, right? Crocs, yeah, like you got to worry about crocs being in the river. That'd be kind of cool. Like, you can't cross here, you gotta kill them, or you know, end up maybe getting got by a croc. I'm also okay without it. If it's going to take way too much of the performance or anything like that, no need. It just adds more to the immersion. Basically though, the game is really, really good, has a lot of promise, and if they get down a good base game, then the potential skyrockets majorly, because just like DayZ, dude, they could do different biomes. If they have a good base mode, it doesn't always have to be in the fucking jungle. They can have desert, they can have snow, they can have woodland, they can have swamp. So it doesn't always have to be in the jungle. As long as they have a healthy base game that's fun to play, there is so much potential. You can have urban warfare. It doesn't always have to be in the jungle. And so for I like the jungle warfare, don't get me wrong, but I could see where that could turn some people off. Not everyone wants all that foliage. And so having different biomes would be huge, dude, huge. But as a whole, the game, man, I'm excited for it. It's the first looter shooter extraction based game in the genre that I'm like, yeah, this could go the distance. Outside of Tarkov, this is the first one that I'm like, it can go the fucking distance. It could do it. I don't think it's going to kill Tarkov. I don't think it's a Tarkov killer. I think they are different enough that it could stand by its own and both games could be successful. Just like Fortnite, PUBG, Apex, Warzone are still in the battle royale genre, but they're all four different enough that they can stand on their own and one doesn't kill the other. And so I don't think it's a Tarkov killer, but I don't think it's a Tarkov killer. I think both can do fine. I don't even think it's all that similar to Tarkov, honestly. I think it's a lot more akin to Ghost Recon Wildlands and DayZ, and those two games had a baby, and then it was influenced by Tarkov, or has certain aspects of Tarkov. The trader system and the gun modding and all that, I think is pretty similar. I think a lot of that is still very early into early alpha. I didn't touch on a lot of that, but you know, like the UI needs an update. The hotkeys for dropping weapons or changing out attachments and unloading a weapon, stuff like that was important. They can be addressed, and I'm sure there's a lot of that stuff that they have planned. You know, the healing system, yeah, all was a placeholder. The running animations, placeholder. So once they adjust the placeholders, which I'm guaranteed they have already thought of, then yeah, an ADS sense slider. Yep, exactly. Like all of those keybinds and all that, they'll add. Right now it's early alpha, so it's a placeholder. But as a whole, 5 out of 10 for taking it into comparison versus other fully complete games. 5 out of 10. 8 out of 10 when you take into consideration that it's an alpha. I'm very excited to see where they take it in the future. Oh, also one more thing with the grayzone that I just remembered. ADS and the arm stam and like being under breath was way too low. Like, dude, I was combating trying to hold my breath or aim a large percentage of the time whenever I was trying to fight opponents, because it felt like my guy was always fucking out of arm stam or out of breath, one of the two. That partially could have been because I was sprinting around too much. Maybe they wanted to be slower and stuff like that, but I think overall they needed to up that a little bit, because I was combating ADS or arm stam or breath way too often.